Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. Today we're going to be continuing along with our 2024 college football preview series. Today we look at the Clemson Tigers. Obviously I have a lot to say about them. I'm going to kick it to my dad first. But before I do that, please, if you're new to the channel, take the time, subscribe. It's completely free. It takes 5 seconds. Hit that subscribe button for us. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. We're going to be talking about everybody's favorite team as we inch closer to the start of the season. We've already done 11 or 12 of these. We're getting back on the train of subscribers. We want more people to join the community and talk college football with us. With all being said, Dad, how do you feel about Clemson's season last year? Obviously, did not meet our expectations of winning the ACC.
Yeah, I think this is last season, and the fact that so many people are disappointed. And again, when you look at this, it says 8-4, but that's really 9-4 with the bowl win. So many people are disappointed at 9-4 is a testament to this Dabo Swinney era and how good of a coach he has been. Clemson is now a perennial national champion contender. So the fact that 9-4 is considered a bad season is a testament to Dabo. You have to give all credit to the fact that that's a bad season to him. Now, I agree. This was below our expectations for this team. But if you remember before the Dabo Swinney era, this would have been considered a good season. If you think about the 134 teams in college football, for 120 of them, this would have been considered an amazing season. 9-4 with a major bowl win. So this only speaks to how good Clemson has been. Now, yes, this was absolutely a down year. This does not, I am sure, did not meet Dabo Swinney's expectation, did not meet Clemson's fans' expectations, but I don't consider this in any way like the bottom fell out. I consider this like what most good teams have, is you have an off year. Just the amount of players in and out and transfers and chemistry. This was a down year. We can point, and I think like we mentioned in another video, we can point to maybe Dabo's thoughts on the transfer portal. But again, I think we need a bigger sample size to be able to truly pinpoint that as the cause. I think they would need a couple more down seasons for us to really say, hey, Dabo Swinney really needs to reconsider his position there. I just consider this a bad year. You had a quarterback playing really substantially for the first time, getting his first substantial start. You had a bunch of turnover within the team. I don't knock them, and I suspect that they are going to be back. What's your thoughts on them?
So obviously last year we did a lot of coverage and a lot of videos. Obviously, I'm a Clemson fan, you're an Ohio State fan, so we talk more about those teams quite a bit. But I think a lot of the talk on the transfer portal, which we covered before about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe, about the Clemson and the portal situation. I don't look too much into it. Obviously, we both had them winning the ACC last year. I had them going to the playoffs, I believe. So it's kind of tough. But I was also on record saying I didn't think Clemson was a national championship team last year, and I still don't believe Cade Klubnik can be a national championship type quarterback. So I do want to make sure that's known. Even though I'm a Clemson fan, I'm realistic. Obviously, if you look at last year's schedule or record, we lost 3 games by 1 possession. 2 of those games coming in overtime. The Florida State game, we shouldn't have even went to overtime. We missed a game-winning field goal when we had a kicker who had just, I think, came over from some school in New York or something. I was some new kicker. Obviously, Miami, we lost in double overtime, went for it on 4th and inches, did an RPO play, bubble screen, I believe. The NC State game, Kevin Concepcion, I believe I said his name right, the wide receiver, killed us. He had a really big day. And the Duke game was just weird to me. Obviously, we got in the red zone a few times, fumbled twice in the goal line. Really outgained them in every team stat, but still lost by 3 possessions, which is crazy. I think that's the first time in Clemson history that's ever happened. I'm pretty sure Dabo said that. So it was just an anomaly, in my opinion. The whole season, even in a lot of these wins, the Wake Forest win, I think the Notre Dame win that we were at that game, the North Carolina win, a lot of those games we needed miraculous plays because of the lack of discipline and lack of, I would say, fundamentals that were being, displayed by the Clemson offense. I would say the defense played phenomenal last year, top 5 to 10 defense.
They did.
And they had to make up for a lot of what the offense could not do. We saw Nate Wiggins run down the UNC running back to force a fumble before North Carolina could score that touchdown. That would have completely shifted that game. Obviously saw Notre Dame defense come up big. Jeremiah Trotter with a pick 6 to kind of get traction and get a
Clemson
lead.
defense against Notre Dame.
I'm sorry.
You said the Notre Dame defense.
I'm sorry, the Clemson defense against Notre Dame. So just in totality, when even the Charleston, I think it was the FAU game. One of those games, it was like a 3-point game at halftime.
Yeah.
And you're going against a team that's really an FCS school. So it's kind of interesting to see where we go from here. And when I say we, obviously, like I said, I'm a big time Clemson Tigers fan. So to see where we go from here, ESPN has them as a ranked 15 team. I think that's about fair. 8-5 or 8-4 or 9-3 seems about fair. I think 8-4 is kind of disrespectful in my opinion. Looking at the schedule they have, with a 19% chance to win the ACC, I think that's fair as well. I think Miami's going to be good. Florida State's going to be good. Louisville's going to be good. So I think 19% is fine. Obviously, it's not what Clemson fans are used to. 4 years ago, having a 50 to 60% chance to win your conference. So it's obviously different. But let's go ahead and look at because I want to talk a little bit more. The glaring
hold
thing
on, before we even get into this, I gotta say, man, kudos to Dabo Swinney not taking transfer portal players, because let me say this. If you guys don't know, we normally pick the team that we're going to break down a day before or the day of. We normally give ourselves a couple of hours, and with transfer portal players, so you can look at roster stats, Dabo Swinney made it so easy. It's all in one place. I don't have to go to 15 different places to try to figure out people's stats. Dabo put it in one place. You don't have to go look and see what they did with another team. It's all in one place for me. Thank you, Dabo. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously, the glaring thing on the screen that we see is no transfer additions. Obviously, this is not something that's news to everyone. If you're a fan of college football and you are, relevant in the college football news space, Clemson does not use the portal.
I think just service academies
academies, and then us.
They are not allowed to, and then Clemson is the only other team that did not add a transfer portal player.
And so obviously talking about the key losses, you look at Trotter, he went to the NFL. Yeah. Shipley, Thomas, Ororo, Wiggins, Tyler Davis all went to the NFL. Bo Collins transfers to Notre Dame. I do want to point out Andrew Makuba also left. He got I wouldn't say got his spot taken, but he wasn't a starter by the end of the year because of Khalil Barnes and RJ Mickens. So he transfers to Texas. He's from Texas. So obviously Texas has one of the best rosters in college football. So I think he primes himself into, a chance to win the national championship now. I think he has a better chance now, obviously. But returners wise, you bring back Cade, who Dabo has put all his chips on after moving on from DJU. Antonio Williams, who battled injuries late last year. Phil
so Maffa, quickly, can Antonio Williams because I think the big question for them has always been, who is that number one receiver? Is it going to be Tyler Brown, who was their leading receiver? He went over about 500 yards last year. Do you think it's going to be Antonio Williams? Because I only mention this because you don't have Tyler Brown listed as one of your key returners. Do you think Antonio Williams will be their number one receiver?
Well, so no disrespect to Tyler Brown. I just don't think he can be a number one guy. I think Antonio Williams was the number one guy, but he battled injuries all year last year. I think Tyler Brown is going to be a solid slot receiver. I do think that. But I think something I want to highlight is that 5-star wide receiver, TJ Moore. I think he is the future of Clemson at the wide receiver position. I do anticipate this year being, I'm not going to say another down year at the wide receiver spot, but I don't think we're going to see a true number one. I think there's going to be a lot of distributing the ball between, Maffa, Jake Brenningstool, who I think is a hell of a tight end, receiving tight end, Antonio Williams. Cole Turner comes back after a torn ACL. He had the big game in the 2022 ACC title game against North Carolina. So he comes back. He's the fastest player on Clemson. So I think he's going to be electric in the offense. Obviously, Bryant Wesco, another 4-star receiver who gets brought in. Adam Randall's back. So I think there's a lot of weapons to be, chosen from, however you want to say it. But I think Cade Klubnik has a lot of players to kind of put the ball in their hands and see what they can do. But again, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to how good can Cade Klubnik be, because he is going to be the ultimate ceiling. I think if you plug in a guy, and again, we're talking about NFL players now, but if you plug in a guy like Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence into this offense, he can make these guys work. Yeah. I mean, if you look at who Trevor Lawrence is throwing to, Ray-Ray McCloud is a special teamer in the NFL now. Mm-hmm. You have a guy like Deion Kane who's in the, in the UFL, I think.
Yeah, not
these are guys like Sharon Peak, who's not, doing anything really in the NFL right now. I think he had a little stint with the Jets, but other than T. Higgins and Justin Ross, who has been battling trouble with the law, there's no other real receivers other than DeAndre Hopkins and Sammy Watkins. And those are guys from when Taj Boyd played. So it's not like Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence have had a plethora of wide receivers that Cade doesn't have the same disposal of, because I think TJ Moore is just as good as any of those guys coming out of high school. So I think this year there's no more excuses. There's no more built-in excuses we can give Cade. I think, you had the down year. The defense played lights out. I think the defense is going to be even better this year. You lose Nate Wiggins. You lose Jeremiah Trotter, but you bring in Sammy Brown, who I think can fill the void. You bring over Khalil Barnes as well, as obviously
Well,
he's going
hold
to be a
on.
top four guy.
I think Jeremiah Trotter meant a lot to this team. Now,
I
I
think so.
know Sammy Brown, 5-star. We actually saw him at the Clemson Notre Dame game. Looks legit, but I don't think that you plug and play and say that this guy can replicate what Jeremiah Trotter, not only what he did statistically, but what he meant to that team. Like you mentioned, the pick six, he was really kind of the heart and soul of that defense. No knock to Carter. Carter is a heck of a linebacker, but I think those two together were what made this defense so special last year.
No, definitely. But I will say it's always been a kind of rinse and repeat kind of thing, linebacker position with Clemson. I mean, if you look back at the days with BJ Goodson, if you look at, Ben Bolware, then you look at Big 43. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He had the Wolf of Wall Street meme. I can't think of the top of my head, but it's super funny. He was just here. It's gonna come to me here in a second. And then obviously Jeremiah Trotter. And then now you obviously have Sammy Brown. I'm not saying Sammy Brown's going to be what Jeremiah Trotter was. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think with Barrett Carter, with Wade Woodez, I do think they have the potential to be. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, we're rated as the best linebacker core in college football coming back. And I think Sammy Brown has a lot to do with that, given that we've lost Jeremiah Trotter. I'm not saying he's the reason, but I think what we bring
Well, I would
back
say
as a
Barrett
whole.
Carter is probably the reason. I think
What we bring
he is
back
the
as a
star.
whole is what kind of makes that unit click. But like I said, I think the question mark is going to be the offense. The third year in a row that we've talked about this, and I think the ceiling ultimately for Clemson is how good Cade Klubnik can be.
Yeah, I like a lot of this roster. I think Phil Maffa, with Will Shipley now gone, being able to be that true bell cow. And if you look, he had more carries than Will Shipley last year. He had a better yard average per carry last year, and he had more yards than Will Shipley last year. But he was splitting carries. So the fact that he can be a true bell cow, I think he's going to have a breakout season. But I think to your point, the trajectory of this Clemson team is going to be solely based on can Cade Klubnik really step up. Not that he had a horrible season, 2,800 yards, 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, but I think you expect a little bit more from the Clemson quarterback, and you're going to need a little bit more from the Clemson quarterback. So I think he needs to be at about 30 touchdowns, 3,500 yards for Clemson to be where it is that Clemson's trajectory says that they should be, which is competing for the national championship.
And I just looked it up. I don't know how I blanked on his name. His name is James Skalski. I don't know why I forgot his name.
Oh, Skowski.
But yeah. It's funny. We have the exact same floor, the exact same ceiling, the exact same projection, the exact same loss. I think that's pretty crazy. But now I will say, I'm not going to be saying, obviously, you're not going to be surprised if you have the ceiling at 12. Well, you might be surprised, but I believe Clemson's going to beat Georgia. And again, I think that's biased.
So then why did you make that your prediction?
Again, because I think it's biased. We're a 14-point underdog in that game. So I'm going to say I picked Georgia to win this game because it's in Atlanta. But I personally think this is a 50-50 game. And a lot of people are not going to agree with me. Well, actually, a lot of the people who view this video, if we get the numbers we think we're going to get on this video, are going to agree with me because you're Clemson fans, just like myself. But I don't think the gap is as big as what people make it out to be. The reason being, Georgia lost a lot offensively. Yeah. And I think the last time we saw Clemson and Georgia play in week 1, Georgia won 10-3 on a pick 6. And I think if our defense can play lights out like we did last year, I think we have a chance.
Now, do me a favor. Go back to the last season schedule, and I'm going to show you why I have concerns, not only with that game, but the Florida State game. So when you look at this, where Clemson struggled was on the road. Clemson did not play well on the road. Obviously, the Florida State game, but the Miami game, the North Carolina State game, the Duke game, and you can go back now, all on the road. That Georgia game, although it's in Atlanta, and I don't know why they do it, but that is going to be a Georgia home game. That crowd is going to be 75% Georgia fans. I don't know why they call that a neutral site game. I don't know why Clemson keeps agreeing to play Georgia in Atlanta. I mean, I think they have it not next season, but the season after that as well. I don't know why they keep doing that because that's going to be a Georgia home game. That's also what kind of scares me about that Florida State game. I think Clemson is going to do very well at home, right? This is why when I looked at the Louisville game and the South Carolina game, those were games that I was kind of like, those are, but the fact that those games are in Clemson, that's what made me feel good about those games. The games that I'm concerned about most is the Georgia game being in Atlanta and that Florida State game at Florida State. I just think there was so much turnover with that Florida State team that Clemson is going to be a little bit better.
So we both have the floor at 7-5. What are your 5 games that you feel like as potential losses? I just want to see if we're on the same page.
Yeah, obviously I had the Georgia game. I had the North Carolina State game. I had the Florida State game. I had the Louisville game. And I can't remember. And South Carolina.
Okay, that's the same games I had. I even battled a little bit with the Virginia Tech game. I think Virginia Tech has a really good crowd. I don't know how good this team's going to be this year. They've been down as of late, but I do think Virginia Tech has one of the best home environments. So I battled a little bit with that game as well. But I think 11-1 is a hell of a year. Obviously, I mean that's still. I'm not gonna say it's a down year, but it's like the way the mass media is gonna put it is like if we start the season off even 0-1 or 3-1, 4-1, it's like, oh, here we go again. Clemson is Clemsoning. Like it's kind of getting old at this point. But I think 11-1 gets you in the playoffs. You get in the ACC title game. So at the end of the day, it's a good season.
What I like is what you're bringing back, right? And I know you mentioned the offense and being concerned, but I like the fact that you're bringing back Cade and Phil Maffa, who again basically took the position of the number 1 back last year. I like that you're bringing back a lot from the wide receiver room, as we mentioned, Tyler Brown, and you're bringing back Antonio Williams. I like that you just expect, or you believe, I have a belief that Cade Klubnik is going to be better than he was last year. I just based off of now he has a little bit more experience. He knows what to expect. I think he's going to be a little bit better. And like you mentioned, I think this defense is going to be as good as they were last year. So if I think the defense is going to be just as good as they were last year, and just based off of who they have coming back, the offense should be a little bit better, then I think this record's going to be a little bit better. And that's kind of what I based my projections on.
Yeah, and before we head out, I do want to talk about key returners one more time. I know, I mean, if Clemson fans aren't viewing this, you're probably asking why is there no DBs on this list? There's a lot of key DBs that I could have named that I didn't want to because a lot of them are really young. Obviously, you have AJ Terrell's little brother, Avion Terrell, RJ Mickens, Shelton Lewis. You have Khalil Barnes. A lot of those guys that are coming back. I think Jaden Lucas. I think a lot of these guys have the potential to be really good. I think Khalil Barnes right now is my favorite DB on this roster. He was really good, freshman last year. And that's another upside that I have of this team. I think our defense is so young that it's like I don't see a fall off anytime soon. The only real, I would say, veteran on this defense is going to be Barrett Carter. And it's not like, I mean, I think he's a redshirt junior or redshirt sophomore, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not like he's in a position where this is his 5th year in the team or the program. I mean, TJ Parker and Peter Woods are going to be true sophomores. You have Sammy Brown, Ricardo Jones are going to be true freshmen. All those, everybody on the back end pretty much are true freshmen from last year. I think there was one game we had three true freshmen score on defense last year, something crazy like that. So I do like what we bring back in the secondary as well. I know we didn't name them, but there's just a lot of names to be kind of spoken about. So I'm interested to see how, the secondary looks this year, but the defense in general, obviously as a Clemson fan, I want to see us back in the national title, picture. I don't think we're ready there yet. I want to see a different quarterback. And again, Cade is obviously our quarterback, so I support him, but from what I've seen, it's very hard to view him in the light of, a Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson. I've been spoiled, obviously.
I mean, I think those are generational talents, right? Most people don't get those two guys back to back.
But even when you look at other guys like a Kelly Bryant, even a Kelly Bryant had a hell of a year. He was 10-2 or 11-1. So DJ was even 10-2. So, I mean, when you look at guys like that, this is his first, this was the first time as a Clemson fan, a quarterback really didn't live up to what he was supposed to be. At least, again, in my lifetime.
But again, as a Clemson fan, do you not feel hopeful that he's going to be better next year?
It's hard to say.
I mean, I have a genuine belief that he's going to be better next year, and I'm not a Clemson fan.
So, I mean, I would like to say that, but I also think looking at the beginning of the season, I didn't see progression to the bowl game. I think there were still little minor mistakes he would do, whether it be running around for a million years in the background in the backfield and then throwing it, in double coverage. Or I just think those are things that should have been corrected early on. He wasn't a true freshman last year, so he's heading
Right.
into his junior year. This is no longer a young guy. So
Right. He's upperclassman.
it's kind of hard to view it that way. When again we had guys like Cole Stout, Kelly Bryant, Tyson Pumachan, a lot of these guys who were quarterbacks before, they didn't play like a former number one quarterback coming out of high school should be playing. So I think he just needs to kind of elevate himself if the team is going to elevate. Because again, if he's still making the same mental mistakes and mental lapses, this team's not going to go far no matter how good the defense is. We saw a great defense last year, and we saw get in the red zone, read option, pull, fumble the ball, or holding the ball too long, getting hit, fumble the ball. So there's little things. And again, I'm not bashing him. I'm not hating on him because again, I support the kid. He's obviously the quarterback for my favorite team. So I want him to be good. I don't want him to be bad. But at the end of the day, we have to see a natural progression when you're going into your junior season and you're on a team that has such high expectations like Clemson. At this point, not making it to the ACC title game is a complete disaster for Clemson.
Agree.
And I think really, in my opinion, not being in the playoff picture is a complete disaster.
Yeah, especially at 12.
Yeah, with 12, I think this year, if we don't make the playoffs this year, at this point, I'm at a situation like, okay, we need to reevaluate because now you're the third, you're not even in the top 12. Last year we were close, heading into the final games of the year. We lost to Miami, but at that point we were in and out of the top 25. If we could have held on one or two of those games, we'd have been good. When the DJ year, we were in the top 7 when we lost to Tennessee and South Carolina. So it's not like we're out of that top 12 for long. But if we don't make the top 12 this year, I'm going to have genuine concerns on, where the program is headed, especially transfer portal wise, because again, I backed Dabo, and I think that he can win without it. But if this year we don't make the playoffs, that's where I'm going to kind of bat an eye. I'm not bat an eye, I guess I'd say.
Yeah, I don't back Dabo. I just say we need a bigger sample size.
No, for sure. Let us know in the comment section what you guys think about the Clemson Tigers heading into this year. Obviously, a lot of question marks surrounding this offense and Dabo not using the portal. Hopefully, we get a lot of Clemson fans in here as well to kind of give their perspective. It's always fun to talk to fans of Clemson and Ohio State. Obviously, my dad being an Ohio State fan and me being a Clemson fan. And as always, you made it to the end of the video. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. We're going to be posting the Ohio State video come Saturday. So please stick around for that, and we will talk about them soon. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.